Hey, what's up, guys? Got another video for you. This is Tuned In Sports. My name is Bryson.
I'm Bennett.
I'm Steve.
I'm Don.
And we've got another video for you. And today we're going to be talking about a couple of different matchups from this past Saturday in the college football world. And a couple of our teams had games. Couple didn't, but there was still outside of our team some very interesting games, crazy finishes and stuff that took place this Saturday. So we're going to be talking and breaking down a couple of those for you. But I guess let's start with the teams up here that actually had a game, or of us, and one of those was Mr. Dalvin Cook jersey over there on the far left, Florida State. Taking on, who was it? Notre Dame.
Yep.
On the road.
Yeah. I actually thought they played pretty decent overall. I mean, I was expecting them to get blown out by 40 or 30 something. So they left me pretty surprised with how they performed. Jordan Travis, I think that guy's gonna be really good going forward for us. I think he's got a lot of running talent, and also, I mean, I think his passing will improve over time, but I think we got a bright future at quarterback with him.
Well, couldn't get much dimmer with the
you couldn't.
With Mr. Blackman, I think you can only go up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But yeah, overall, I mean, went into Notre Dame and only lost by 16 points. Not too bad.
And if it wasn't for the second quarter, I mean, the rest of the time was pretty even, and neither team scored in the fourth either. So in the second half, you played good defense. It was just that second quarter that really pretty much ended the game for you.
Yeah. Well, just a couple really stupid mistakes. Like, for instance, with 2 minutes or so to go, Notre Dame was, had like a little bit over a minute or so to score, and we ended up getting called for an unnecessary roughness.
Oh, yeah.
So you can imagine what that led to. Notre Dame going right down the field and scoring.
Yeah, I specifically.
He was within one possession at that time.
I specifically remember that play because I actually called him right after it happened. I didn't know that it happened, but right as he answered the phone, he was like, "You stupid moron!" So I remember that play.
Yeah, I was pissed over that, but
I don't even think you said hi. I think that was the first thing that you said. I was like, "Hey, Bennett, what's up?" And you're like, "You stupid moron!" Oh, man.
Yeah, I was like, number 6, you shouldn't be seeing the field again.
Yeah, exactly. I was
basically,
like, apparently he's watching the Florida State game.
Yeah, I was. Unfortunately, when stuff like that happens, it just drives me nuts. I mean, we're averaging 10 penalties per game this season, which is just ridiculous. So
that's a good way to go 1-3.
Yeah, I'll say.
Yeah, you can't afford stupid penalties against anybody, but especially against good football teams. Stuff like that just extends drives and just eliminates the hard effort you're putting in. And that gets down to discipline, which ultimately is on the coaches. But I know the new coach hasn't been there very much recently with the COVID and all that stuff. So I'm not sure how much impact he's actually having at this point. But yeah, it was encouraging to see them play, a pretty spirited game. They definitely were in the game for, at least over a half anyway. So that was encouraging if you're an FSU fan. I mean, ultimately they still got the L, but I mean, there wasn't too many people that thought they were going to win the game anyway. So, but I mean, I think it's going to be a work in progress. I mean, this coach that they got from Memphis is a pretty good coach, I think, but just he needs to have some time
to build it
to get it where he wants it. And but I do believe in a couple of years, 3 years or whatever, he'll have a good team on the field. And like Bennett said, this quarterback seems like he's got some good stuff going on. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I like I said before. I mean, it's hard for him not to be an improvement over what they had before, which kind of makes me wonder why he wasn't playing sooner. But hey, here we are. But one thing I will say is, he had 19 carries. He actually led the team in rushing this week, which is kind of an interesting stat. But then again, he probably carried the ball more times than anybody else on the team, too. Another great game by, how do you pronounce his name? Tamarion
Terry.
Yeah, Tamarion. Yeah, he had another great game. 9 receptions, 146 yards, and a touchdown. Which isn't always easy to do against a team like Notre Dame. So that was nice to see him play well. And just overall, it was nice to see the team actually show up because, like Dad was saying, I don't think anybody expected them to win, but I definitely was expecting them to get blown out, maybe 42-6, not 27.
Yeah, we can look forward to Terry being out in the draft in a couple of years.
Yeah, or maybe
After
just
this year.
skipping the bowl crap and saying, hey, see what this
I'm
team's...
leaving. Yeah,
After next
exactly.
week.
Yeah, I'm done.
Well, with the quarterbacks that he's had thrown to him, it's amazing that he's been able to get the stats he has.
I know.
Because it's not like he's got...
He's had Blackman almost every season.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm
So-
saying. It's not like he's had Joe Burrow tossing it to him.
Yeah.
He's had, Robert Griffin II or something. I don't know. But, much better game this week than I think they put up in the last handful of weeks.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
against a better team, so that's good to see.
That's encouraging for sure.
So,
Anything
who
else?
is it that we got next week?
Next week you're playing North Carolina, actually.
Yeah, that's another loss. Woo! But then we got Louisville after that. So
Yeah, you got North Carolina at home, though.
I think, I see us losing that, but we could possibly beat Louisville the following week.
I think North Carolina struggled with Virginia Tech, right? Wasn't
Yeah.
it? So, I mean, I don't. Never know.
Yeah,
I mean,
we'll see.
this was their best game they played all season,
Yeah.
and at least the first half was decent,
Yeah.
except for the second quarter. But I mean, as far as the whole, it's a pretty good game for them. Maybe they can learn off of that
Yeah.
and apply it to the one against North Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot to build on there. So
And hey, they got NC State after you guys, so maybe they're like, oh, Florida State's going to be an easy one. Let's look forward to grounding in our in-state rivals and look past you, and maybe you could, give them a fight.
Hey, I would be happy with a win there, but we'll see.
Well, I mean, I don't think, honestly, like many of these games, you're thinking win, but just playing competitively or at least,
Exactly.
showing up for the game would be nice. And you definitely did that last week.
Yeah, the second half of our schedule, I feel, is weaker than the first half, for the most part. We got a lot of not as good teams in the second half.
Yeah, except Clemson.
Yeah, exactly.
You do got to play them yet, though.
So, but overall, looking at the schedule,
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of games that we couldn't win there in the second half.
Yeah, and hopefully with the quarterback, he'll have a couple games under his belt at the helm going into those games, so
he'll know what it's like to throw some interceptions and feel comfortable doing so.
he'll get comfortable.
Hey,
tackling
he'll
them.
have to get used to it when we play Clemson. That's for sure.
I'm just saying, you got to step out of the Ohio Valley Conference to get a W. So once you're able to do that, then we'll see where they go.
Exactly.
I mean, at least get a W in your conference, and then that's the first thing you need to do.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't see it coming next week, but maybe,
you never know.
like you
You never
said,
know.
yeah, you never know.
Yep.
You never know. Conference games.
It's funny to sit here and talk about it like we do because back when Don and I were younger, Florida State was the shit.
Mm-hmm.
And you had your hands full with them.
And now they are
And-
still.
Instead of full,
They are still. Exactly.
But I mean, it's just kind of funny that we even talk about it like
Yeah.
we do, because I mean, they used to be really tough.
Yeah.
And they were not an easy game, and nobody wanted them on their schedule. But now it's like, oh, this Florida State.
We got a bye week.
Well, no, I mean that was. I mean, you figured the same thing with Clemson, right? I mean, and I was growing up, Clemson, man, they're a tough team. And then all of a sudden they just disappeared off the map for
Years.
20 plus years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, okay, there's Clemson again. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it just depends on what happens. I mean, it happens to most of the schools.
Yep.
Again, unless you can go with Utah, like I said, Urban Meyer, or you just follow the coaches around, and usually those programs will be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then as
Exactly.
soon as they leave, then they go into obscurity. So
Yeah. So, I guess let's go ahead and move on to the next game. And since my team played this week, I know I did the podcast, but we can just touch on it briefly. We played against Ole Miss, and holy crap! Make sure you tune into the podcast to get my full thoughts on it. But boy, oh boy, from a fan standpoint, not of Alabama, but just a fan of football, this was one of the most fun games I have watched in a long time. If you are a fan of just offense, it was nonstop. Every single drive was down the field, down the field, down the field, down the field, back and forth. I literally think Ole Miss, the only time they stopped us from getting in the end zone was when they forced a fumble on the goal line. But even that, they didn't stop us because we got to the goal line. They literally did not stop us on a drive. Every single drive ended in a touchdown except for that one where they forced a fumble on the 1 yard line. Going the other way, we did not stop them a single time, but we forced 2 field goals in the fourth quarter. But apart from that, even that is not really stopping. That's just holding them. So, oh my God, it was just absolutely insane. 2 high-powered offenses just going back and forth. Every time you thought one team got the advantage, the other team would score, and then they would answer, and you're like, okay, now the pressure's back on. Then they would score. It was just an insane game. Oh man, I just about crapped my pants multiple times. Like, oh crap, we're gonna lose. Nope. Then we'd score. Then they'd score again. We're like, oh no, here we go. Man, it was so much fun to watch. But from a fan standpoint of Alabama, oh my God, defense. There wasn't any. We gave up 640 something. Yeah, 47 yards. Holy Jesus. Just about everything they did worked like a charm. They didn't have any issues doing anything. They even went for it on 4th down 4 times and got it every single time. I mean, it was just like, wow. Matt Corral, Corral, their quarterback, he played outstanding. Man.
Yeah, that's bad defense isn't something we're too accustomed to at Alabama. So
No, I know, and that was kind of like, what the hell are we watching here?
welcome to the Big 12.
Exactly. That's essentially what it was, really. I mean, that's what the SEC has been this year, too. It's just like, boy, it might as well be the Big 12. Thank God, our offense put up 723 yards. I mean, literally, speaking of never anything that we did went right, Alabama, look no further. I mean, literally every single drive, like I said, the only time they stopped us was when Najee Harris fumbled the ball on the 1 yard line. Every other drive was a touchdown. So that was pretty impressive to watch. But, defense, boy, it was not good. And honestly, the biggest thing for me is just like, man, if we look that way against Ole Miss, we got Georgia next week, and I have a feeling that we're not going to score on every single possession against Georgia. And if our defense is playing like it did this week, I'm not exactly sure why we're favored to win this game. just being honest, it must be because we're at home.
We're at home, right.
We are at home, but that's the only reason I can muster, because with how they've looked and how we played in this game, it's going to be tough sledding. I would not be surprised at all if we end up losing this game, and that's painful to say, but, with our offense too, boy, they're going to have their hands full on defense, but their defense is a lot better than what Ole Miss put out there, so.
And apparently Lane Kiffin's going to have to do some recruiting on the defensive side of the ball after this year.
Yeah, they mentioned that quite a few times.
I mean, to give up 700 yards, that's kind of a big red mark on your board of things to do.
But this is probably the most competitive game Ole Miss has had with Alabama, and who knows when.
Oh yeah,
since Eli and.
Oh yeah.
So it's a step in the right direction for Ole Miss, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh no.
And it didn't hurt that Lane Kiffin kind of knows all about Alabama after coaching there.
Uh-huh.
So he knew what to look for, and where the deficiencies are in the defense.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, that was one thing that I wasn't a huge fan of. I didn't really read the extent of the quote, so I don't know if it was taken out of context, and it seemed like I read a thing later that said that he didn't necessarily mean it in the way it came out, but there was a quote that came out from Saban, I think from a press conference or something, that said, they must have known our defensive signs or something like that, and I'm like, come on, man, just shut up and accept the fact that you guys' defense played like crap this week. Just because somebody put up 600 yards against you doesn't mean that they must have been cheating in some way. I wasn't necessarily a big fan of that quote, but like I said, he said that from what I read, he said he didn't mean it that way. It would have
been a sarcastic comment to me, like.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I don't think it was taken in the right.
No, exactly. Media blew it up, but still, I mean, when you say it in the way that he said it, basically saying, "Oh yeah, they must have stolen our." Defensive signs or something, then that just, it's going to be interpreted in that way. So don't go there. And unfortunately he did. So hopefully he didn't mean it in that way, but if he did, that's pretty crappy, I thought. I really didn't like.
Well, I mean, he's got every reason to believe it. I mean, really. I mean, Lane Kiffin worked for him for how many years?
Yeah,
and
but
he's got a pretty good idea what the, what's
yeah,
going
but
on
still,
there.
He worked under Belichick, so he really knows about cheating. So, I mean, if he wants to learn how to film things, well, that's the guy to go to, right? I mean,
yeah.
So it's just the same. I don't know. To me, it sounds like it's just sour milk with them. Again, there should be no way that an Alabama team should be on the same field as the Ole Miss team.
No.
Especially in his first year. I mean, I don't know what's going on with that. I mean, who knows? But we'll see next week against Georgia. It'll be the next, kind of like what we said with Kansas City, right? Hey, the Patriots found the blueprint. Well, the Vegas Raiders kind of used a little bit of it, so
yeah,
we'll see if Georgia goes, okay, we'll take that from that.
Yep.
And we'll see what happens.
No, exactly. And, as far as watching the tape on this game, go for it on fourth down. They can't stop you. And, I mean, just about everything they did worked. So they'll have their fill of tape to watch.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, if you only give up 400 yards, you might be all right instead of 723.
But we only gave up 400 in passing. And then another 250 in rushing. It's like, holy Jesus Christ. Yeah. Are we watching the, Alabama Southern something? I don't know. But like I said, though, from a fan standpoint, though, of just pure football, this game was so much fun to watch. I mean, if you like high-scoring offenses, this game was nonstop. I know the ending score, we ended up winning by, I think, 15 or something, but it wasn't until the fourth quarter that it was a double-digit score. And even that was only because we stopped them on offense and held them to a field goal. We scored a touchdown. We held them to another field goal, and we scored a touchdown again. And then we scored one more touchdown at the end after they scored, so it made it a different number. But trust me, it was no more than 7 points the entire game. it was such a crazy game to watch. So yeah, but
I mean, I haven't seen this much scoring since an NBA player with the Instagram models. I mean, it was just
the Phoenix Suns.
I mean,
or Odell.
yeah, I mean, it was just amazing.
Yeah.
Like I said, Big 12 football, love it.
Pretty much. But yeah, so that was the Alabama game. Like I said, if you want to hear more in-depth thoughts and stuff about this game as well as the upcoming game against Georgia, make sure you tune in to podcast number 2. It was released on the 12th, so make sure you guys check that out. But that's enough about that game.
I was going to say, speaking of Big 12, there was the Red River rivalry, or Red River shootout like it used to be, but now it's not PC to say shootout, it's rivalry. Again, the game was pretty much dominated by Oklahoma up until the end, and of course then there was biz stuff and a little weirdness going on with it, and then sent it into overtime. But again, just like that previous game we talked about, if you turned it on in the fourth quarter, it was nothing but entertainment because it was just, again, basketball
What was it,
game.
4 or 5 overtimes?
4.
Yeah, 4 overtimes, and it was just insane. But again, Oklahoma should have closed it out before it even got to the fourth quarter. But again, just typical things that go around with this game.
Yeah.
So it was back and forth. But again, just a fun game to kind of watch at the end.
Yeah.
And you sit there and just roll your eyes. And of course, everybody's favorite announcer was on there, Gus Johnson. Oh man! I mean, it was just like, okay, it was just a run to the right. It's all right, man.
Yeah.
But everything was ratcheted up by 12 with him going, oh man! It was just like, oh god,
Yeah.
mute.
Exactly.
But like you said, fun game, and of course, just the typical, game between Texas and Oklahoma. Yeah, I mean, there was even this point that we're looking a little bit of the highlights was, Texas botched on something, and then Oklahoma goes down and shanks a field goal, so they had a chance to win it, and of course they blew it. It had everything. This game.
Yeah, a little bit of everything, and then they had to go for 2, and then the excitement of that, but then they ended up getting it, and then Texas couldn't get it in the end zone, which is like, wow, how can you not get it in the end zone? I guess that's all you've been doing all game long. But hey.
Yeah, again, it's just, that's a
Big 12 football.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's what it is.
It's basketball on turf.
Exactly. But I mean, like he said, if you're just like a fan of offense and high-scoring games and just craziness, this was it. I mean, this is the epitome of what people watch this for, essentially. And I didn't get to watch much of the game, but what I did watch was just like, holy crap, what am I watching here? It's just crazy to watch. Not a fun day for the defensive coordinators, though. I'm sure that they. Well, then again, they are in the Big 12, so they're probably used to they're used to the chat.
It's status quo in the Big 12.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like the old Nevada situation. Any playmakers they get on defense, they'd move it over to the offense, right? Without
good idea.
Yeah. Hey, you can catch balls. Hey, let's try you at receiver.
Can you stop somebody from scoring? No. Okay, that's gonna help you.
Well, if you can run, we'll put you at the back. But it's a crazy game for sure. Speaking of crazy games, the LSU Tigers against the Missouri Tigers. Now it says here that the ending score was 45-41, but I know that's not right. It was 48-45.
Yeah.
Missouri ended up coming up with the win against LSU. I haven't really watched any of LSU's games, but my guess would have to be is they're noticing the difference. They're noticing the difference between having Burrow and not having Burrow.
Yep.
Well, they're coming back to reality as a normal SEC team without a QB.
Yep, exactly. And unfortunately for them, the reality is hitting them upside the face pretty hard.
They're uncharacteristically bad on defense, though. I mean,
well, that's been pretty much all the teams in the SEC.
Especially with all the talent that they've got on that defensive ball. even from last year. I mean, they lost some people, but they didn't lose like their corners and things like that who were really good. But again, does that go back to the normal thing? And well, did the defensive line cover up a lot of those flaws in the secondary, or
exactly.
Now that the other team has time to throw it around the house, maybe the secondary guys aren't as good as what everybody thinks.
Yep.
Sure can run the 40 fast, but
I'm sure they're missing Hilaire too, running back.
Yeah, but they've got
they're still putting up point. I mean, they put up 45. So I mean, it's not. I don't think it's just their defense is not clamping down like they normally do.
No, exactly, because they put up 34 against Mississippi State, 41 against Vanderbilt, and 45 against Missouri. So every game they've put up in the 40s, but it's just their defense.
You should win a few of those.
You would hope.
In the 40s.
Speaking of teams taking a step backwards, Mississippi State, after beating them, they've looked like garbage since that.
Yeah.
They showed up this past weekend. I had them on my parlay, and I'm like, oh, we're getting a point and a half here. I like it.
Might
24-2.
as well not even play.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like I said, now looking at the Arkansas, maybe that wasn't so bad because Arkansas got bizzed in Auburn.
Yeah.
I mean, Arkansas should have won that one. But yeah, to only put up 2 points against Kentucky and being the Leach team, that you would figure that he could get 20.
How can you do
20 on the board?
Yeah, how can you do what you do against LSU and you can't move it on Kentucky?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Something's
Well, like I said, maybe that tells us the issues that LSU has. You know what I mean? Because they only scored 14 against Arkansas, and then 2.
Yeah.
This week.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe that's how porous that defensive is in
Louisiana. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just scary. Again, we'll see as it goes down, but I don't think their schedule doesn't look too hot coming up in the next few weeks. They've got A&M and Alabama, so if Leach is having some issues, it looks like he's going to have to continue because it looks like those two teams will put up points.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because Alabama or A&M.
No, I don't even think Vandy's a lock.
Yeah, and A&M beat Florida this past week.
This week at home.
Yeah.
And they put up a good fight against Alabama,
and
too.
He's got to go against Jimbo and Saban in the next 2 weeks. So.
Yes.
And then they also have Georgia from the East also.
Yeah.
So they drew the top.
Yeah, well, then he's got the Egg Bowl with Lane Kiffin right after that, too. So after he gets into a fist fight with Georgia, then he's going to get the interstate rival for the Egg Bowl.
On the bright side, though, if they can put up 2 points against Auburn, I think they'll be able to win that game. Because Mr. Bo Nix, where are you? Okay.
Yeah,
Speaking of the Texas A&M, though, we should get into that game. That was a really good one.
Yeah, speaking of disappointments, Florida, welcome to the show.
Well, again, going on the road, I mean, it's not easy.
Nope.
With things that are on there, and again, looks like they were pretty much. It was a pretty back and forth type of game, just like the rest of them looked like this weekend.
Yeah.
But it was close, neck and neck, and one or two big plays are gonna switch the tide.
Yep.
In these games, and it did. And,
yeah.
But yeah, good, huge win for Jimbo, especially after the prior week.
Yeah.
Because it seemed like to me that everybody was kind of jumping on him.
Yeah.
For the performance the week before, but it's like, there's only so much you can do
Yeah.
with it. I mean, you are A&M. You're not, again, previously known as a Big 12 school. So
yeah, exactly.
There's only so much you can do, but again, I totally, the way he coaches, I wouldn't, surprising he doesn't turn this around and has a pretty good season out of it.
Yeah. No, exactly.
I like Jimbo.
Not only that, but they've already played the majority of their tough opponents. I mean, they played Alabama and Florida, and then that tough one against Vandy. I mean, Vandy, get that out of the way early, thank goodness. But, they only got Tennessee, and then, of course, like
I said, Arkansas is pretty deep. But, again, the way it looks like A&M's playing, I mean, it looks like I would say they would run the table.
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
to
exactly.
me, looks like, I would expect them only have one loss going into the.
Yeah, I mean, Ole Miss, they're going to have to put up some points against them, but they're going to put up some points because their defense is non-existent. So that'll be a shootout. LSU will probably be a shootout, but I think they could easily win that game, especially at home. especially at home. And then Auburn, they're so wishy-washy that you don't know who's going to show up.
Yeah.
If it's going to be the Auburn Tigers that people were expecting to be this season, or the Auburn Tigers that have been this season. So yeah, they could easily win that game too. So I think they're pretty set. I think they'll end up finishing the season well in the top 25 in the rankings. So yeah. And then let's see. Is there any other games we wanted to talk about from this week?
What about
Another great performance by Georgia this week. Tennessee was in it for a half, and then they just got their breaks beaten off. It was just horrible. I mean, they didn't show up at all for the second half.
Well, again, that was another game I think where depth played a part with it, because Tennessee did a great job in the first half.
Yeah.
And actually were making big plays and were actually, keeping it close with them. And then eventually the wheels fell off, and then the floodgates opened and it was over.
Yeah.
at that point. But no, Tennessee's played very well in the first part of the season, compared to what they've done in previous seasons. So I think they're going in a better direction.
Yeah.
So good for them.
One thing that I did notice from the Tennessee game is their leading rusher had 8 carries for 25 yards.
Yeah.
So, I guess the running game decided to take the week off. But it's Georgia, though.
Yeah, I was going to say their run defense was pretty stout. They weren't going to go anywhere, but again, Tennessee did what they needed to do, right? Hit some big plays. And
they only gave up 56 yards rushing the other way. So, the Lions did a great job on both sides for defensive lines, but unfortunately, like he said, depth was just a big thing, I think.
Yeah. Well, then again, then it, like you said, when you start going and then you hit, turnovers and then fumbles and, put you in short fields, it just doesn't help.
Yep. No, exactly. I mean, this one drive, they had 4 plays for 3 yards, but still managed to get points out of it. Yeah. And I'm guessing that was because of a turnover. Yeah. So, come on. And here's another one, too. 4 plays, minus 1 yard, but they started on the, right around the 30-yard line.
Throw it out in the flat. That's what that one was.
Yeah.
Turnover.
I think any team could manage some points if they started on the 30-yard line.
It's so much better to start on the opponent's
side of the field.
Yeah,
exactly.
So,
and then lastly, I guess Clemson maybe. Clemson Miami ranked 7. Sure didn't look the part this week.
Yeah, like you said that. I mean, they even got a blocked field goal, I think, before the half. That they returned for a touchdown, so I don't, the score I don't think was closer than what it was.
No,
the hype leading up was
misleading.
Yeah,
it looked.
Miami's still miles away from being in that game.
Yeah, no, exactly, and I think the biggest reason that they were ranked pretty high is just because of the irregularities from going into the season, just Miami's usually got a solid program. Let's throw them in there. But they're miles away from the 7th best team in the nation. They got a lot of work to do. But
I don't know. I mean, there's not too many teams that I've looked at that I was that impressed with.
I think too. I think the ranking should happen 3 or 4 weeks into the season.
Yeah.
The preseason stuff is always it's a popularity beauty contest.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the good old boys club. You're gonna have everybody from the Power 5 conferences in there.
Yeah.
And they can come out and look like crap, and then they're still ranked in the top 25.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just whatever.
It's like Texas. I mean, they've lost half their games, and they're still 13th or something. It's what?
Should wait till they actually start playing games.
Yep.
And then get a few under their belt, and then go from there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, that's about it. Like he said, the Auburn game, they definitely got away with some trickeration from the refs on that one. But, hey, take it when you can, I guess.
Exactly.
Looks the same on the record, so. unfortunately, other than Arkansas fans, I don't know how many people are going to remember it come bowl season. So
They won't.
who cares?
That's typical stuff.
Yep. But other than that, pretty exciting week if you like offense. There was plenty of it to be had across
All games to be
all,
had.
all games, all conferences. A lot of really fun, exciting stuff. And above all, just looking forward to week 7. There's a lot of interesting games coming up. I know Alabama's playing Georgia.
I was going to say, that's probably the marquee matchup of,
Yeah, that's going to be a huge
of the weekend.
Huge game.
It's going to be tremendous jobs.
Tremendous amounts of games. But, it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening with that. Are we going to get the same Alabama team that showed up last week? Or the same offense? Are we going to get the same defense? I don't know. That's going to be tough. And then which Florida State's going to show up next week? Is it going to be the...
Hopefully it won't be the one against Miami. I'll just say that much.
Yeah, because that team made Miami look like the 7th best team.
Yeah, that was probably the game that put them up there in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. So, but hey, that's the world of college football. One week teams look like hot stuff, and the next week it's like, boy, I don't even know who we're looking at here.
Yeah, you're dealing with 18 to 22-year-old kids. And
Yep, exactly.
anything can go wrong, right?
Yep, and then with the uncertainty going in on whether they were even going to have a season, some teams haven't even started yet. They didn't have their cupcake games to get warmed up for the conference.
Exactly.
They're just throwing right in against, hey, have fun with Alabama week 1. Good luck with that, So with all the talent and stuff, so it is what it is, but nonetheless, it makes for great television. I'm sure the ratings are through the roof with all these crazy games that have happened thus far. And hey, I'm not going to lie, I've enjoyed it myself, so that's what it is. But any final thoughts on anything?
Just hope we can win in UNC next week. That's all I really gotta say.
Yep.
Well, actually, aren't we at home for that game?
Yeah, you're at home.
Yeah, actually, then, yeah. Hopefully we'll beat them at home.
Would be a good victory.
Or at least be in the game. That's what I want.
If he dies, he dies.
Any final thoughts?
No, none.
No thoughts. It's just another week of football. But I know the coming week we'll start getting Big Ten rolling in, and then we'll get Pac-12 too as well. So we'll at least get more teams available
To watch.
You can watch more biz.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's just
We can
whatever
watch
it is,
more
but
That's
at least
looking
it's
forward to
more.
Michigan.
At least it's more teams, to sit here and enjoy and kind of see. Nice to have them joy in the competition of everything. So
Yep, exactly. Just looking forward to next week. Enjoyed this week, and interested to see how Alabama plays against Georgia. But like I said, we'll talk about that some in the preview. And if you want to hear, like I said, more thoughts on the Alabama versus Ole Miss game, make sure you check out podcast number 2. That was posted on the 12th. So with that being said, guys, this has been Tuned In Sports. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to get all the content and, all that fun stuff. With that being said, also, guys to my right and left here have their own channel called DENT Sports, Denver and Detroit Sports. So make sure you give their channel a watch. If you like what you see here, you'll like what you see there. So with that being said, my name is Bryson.
I'm Bennett.
I'm Steve.
I'm done.
And we'll see you guys in the next video. 38.